friends, it's Roxanne. This is Whitecotton Quilts, and this is another tutorial on a recent quilt that I'm making. This is my fair quilt for this year. So I decided this year that I'm going to do a double wedding ring quilt. Now the double wedding ring is just about on every quilter's bucket list. I'm making mine because I finally felt confident enough to do it. If you have been following along with me on TikTok or Instagram, you have seen that this has been quite a journey. And so this video, we're going to talk about how you finish the quilt. So before we get up to all that, let's talk about how you make these blocks. The traditional way of doing this quilt is to take pieces and cut them into a template shape. I decided not to go that route because I'm not that confident as far as cutting the pieces, making sure they're sewn accurately. The other thing is I'm on a time crunch. I have to get this quilt done before the 25th of July. So I went a different route. I went with foundation paper piecing for the curved parts. And I found that it was really fast and really easy to do. So here's the foundation paper piece. And then when I got them all done, I had curves that looked like this. So, I mean, look how great that looks. Your next step after that is to sew a background curve onto that curve, okay? So if you've been following along again with my TikTok or Instagram, you know that there are a bunch of tips and tricks to get this right. The number one being find and mark your centers of each piece before you sew, align them, and pin. So I'm up to the step where I have this whole stack of curves with a background piece sewn to them, and now it's time to start sewing them to the center of the block. So let me show you a couple of the finished blocks so you get an idea of what we're doing here. So here's a finished block. You can see rather than the traditional method of, the traditional method is you would be just sewing curve on curve on curve and building it out. This is making it into actual blocks. So it's kind of easier that way as far as you just make the block, sew them together. So what I'm doing with this step is I'm taking this piece right here and we are sewing it to this center piece. So I'm going to go into more depth on some tricks on how to do it so that you get this nice pretty point right here and everything looks square. But before we do that, if you want to get your hands on this pattern, it's available right now on my Etsy shop for $5, guys. $5, and you will get the foundation paper piecing papers. You will get 4 of these. You only really need 1, but to save on paper and printing and ink, I made sure that there's 2 per page and you get 4. So it just makes it easier and faster on you to make as many as you need. You will get the instructions. The instructions will have the yardage for all the colors that I use. So if you want to mimic mine, it lists all the colors I used. And of course I used Tulip Pink because you know she's my favorite. It's also going to have it for 3 sizes. So you're going to get the size that I'm making. And the size I'm making is about 76-ish by 76-ish because I'm doing mine the traditional curved edges. So you will be getting those. You'll get an 88 by 88 amounts, and you'll get 96 by 96. So you get all that yardage amounts. You will get how many templates how many papers you're going to need to print for each size. You are also going to get this unit, which looks like this. So this will print onto 4 pieces of paper and you tape them together. I made mine a little stiffer for the cutting for this template by sticking it onto a piece of hard plastic. So it works out really well that way if you have the ability to get some stiff plastic. I got this from my part-time job. It works really good. So you will get this template, and then you will also get the template to cut this curve right here. So you get all that for the $5 on my shop. So head on over there. It is etsy.com and look for Whitecotton Quilt, all one word, no S, and you should be able to find my shop. Now, because this quilt is not completed, so obviously I can't put a picture of the actual completed quilt for the listing. I just used the my mock-up drawing that I have. So look for the mock-up drawing. It's gonna look something like this, and then I will update it when I actually get this quilt completed. So I did not include the amount of fabric that you're going to need for backing. I did not figure that up, so you're going to have to figure that up, guys. I will say for my size quilt that I'm making, you're going to need about 5 yards if you are going to do a which I am. I'm going to do a pieced back because I wanted it to be matching tulle. So you will need about 5 yards for a pieced back. You will need, if you're going to do a 108, you will probably need about 3 yards of a 108. Okay, so let's get down to how to sew these curves onto the center piece and see how it like disappears on the corners. It's a little trick to it, but we're going to go over to the sewing machine and I'm going to show you how we do that so that you get perfect looking blocks. And I'll see you at the sewing machine. Okay, so I'm at my sewing machine. I have pins. I have this is a water erasable, or it's called Mark Be Gone pencil. You can use regular pencil, but something to mark with, okay? And so the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to get our background piece here. And I like doing the right side and the left side first before I put on the top and bottom. So we're going to do the right and left side. So we're going to do like I did on all the other ones. We're going to fold it in half and we're going to find the center point here. Give it a little finger press. And then I'm going to take my marking utensil and I'm going to mark a little line right on that crease. And then I'm going to turn it around and do the same for the other side. Now, I am not, you notice, doing one of these numbers where you fold both sides and mark at once, because one side, when you're cutting, could have gotten cut just a little bit differently, because I use scissors, differently than the other. So do each one individually, unless, you know, you have a fancy cutting machine that cuts it exactly. Just do each one individually. So we're going to finger mark this. And I'm going to show you the reason why I did that. If I hold this up, you can see that one's down just a little bit than the other one. And that's why I did that, because if you do it where you just fold it over, and it's not going to be right. So the next step is I'm going to pick 4 of the curves. So there's 2, there's 3, and there's 4. We only need 2 for this step. And so the first thing I'm going to do is, just like I did, found the center of this, I'm going to find the center of this. So again, fold it in half, press a little crease, and this time I'm going to put a pin in it because I don't want to mark anything on this fabric. That's just me being picky. If you want to do it, you can. But I'm just going to put a pin in that spot. Now it's just the simple task of laying the marked piece exactly on top of where that pin is. Take the pin out and put it right back in on top of both of them. And we are going to start pinning. Okay, so we found our center, we've got it pinned. We're going to start taking these two curves that are going opposite directions, and we are going to make them line up. The trick to this is to not pull either one of them. So I'm just going to gently just push this up, line it up, and pin. And see, so the curve is a little more intense, but I'm just gently moving it down, lining it up, and pin. And we're going to keep doing that all the way across here. If you are doing this pattern, here's what I want you to realize. This is not going to go all the way across. In fact, we want it to stop right here at this seam right here. So I'm going to pin that right there at that seam of the green. That's where it's supposed to stop. I know it's gonna, you're going, but Roxanne, why? You'll understand here in a minute. So we're gonna do the same to the other side. I like to work one side at a time. We're gonna do the same to this side. Gently making it meet. If I can get a pin without poking myself. And pinning. And doing it again. And pin. Lining this little end here with the edge of the green. And just for good measure, I'm going to put a pin in between there. Okay. So the reason why this doesn't go all the way is if it went all the way, you'd have a white going all the way through your finished block, and it's not supposed to. It's supposed to taper off right here, and then the two greens, when you get done, well, you'll see it more, let's see, yeah. The two greens, when you put this side on, it's going to taper off and then it won't be seen. So that's why we're doing that. So right now it's not going to look like anything, but don't worry, it will fit. Now, here's the other thing I want you to be aware of when you're sewing this. There's like this little pleat here, there's a little fullness there, fullness there. That's okay. The thing you want to remember when you're sewing curves is don't worry about the pleats down this way. Worry about what's going underneath your needle. As long as that stays flat and smooth and there's no pleats or anything going on there, you will turn out fine. In this case, because there's a little fullness like right here on this end, and there's a little fullness right here, I'm going to sew with the white down, because the feed dogs will help draw up that little bit of fullness and space it out. So that's just a little trick to help get that worked in. If you've ever got spots that you go, man, there's just a little bit of fullness there, put your fullest fabric on the bottom. And then I'm going to start sewing right on that seam of the green. Pull a pin out, make sure it's still lined up, and sew again. This right here is where you are going to have to be a little exacting on your seam allowance, because this will matter. So I'm making sure that there's no pleats underneath my, gonna go underneath my needle. That's all I care about, is underneath the needle. Don't worry about anything here. Worry about what's going to go underneath your needle, and if you have to adjust and move some fabric around so that it doesn't pleat underneath your needle, then do that. I can feel right here there might be a pleat right there that I'm going to have to, yes, I can see it. So in that case, I just moved that pleat where it was bunched up here underneath my needle. I just pushed it down and to the back where I've already sewn. Take a pin out. And take another pin out. Make sure that, once again, I can feel like a pleat right here gonna form underneath in front of my needle. So I'm moving the fabric down and towards where I've already sewn. Take another pin. Once again, making sure that everything is lining up, that my seam allowances are good. And I'm feeling another pleat right here, so we want to try to smooth that out. There we go. I'm getting to the end of it here, y'all. Okay. Perfect. That little extra fullness I had right there has been drawn up by the feed dogs. Okay. So I stopped sewing and started sewing right there on that seam. And I'm gonna go back and check my back stitches and make sure that there's no pleats underneath of them. There's nothing. Good, I don't have any pleats caught up in my stitches. Now you can see there's all kinds of fullness right here, but it's gonna be magic here when I fold it back. And voila, I've got a nice flat seam. There's no pleats, no, anything. So we've got one side done. So I'm gonna do the same here to the other side. Okay, everybody, so I've got the two sides sewn on. I've went and pressed them, and I pressed that side. I want you to notice a couple of things. When I pressed, you're gonna notice that there's no seam allowance. That's because this edge on either sides are going to be basically part of the seam allowance here. So we're gonna do just like we did before. We're gonna find the center. And now that center will be a little different because we have a piece sewn on there. So once again, we're just gonna do a side at a time. Finger press, find that center, mark, and then I'm gonna turn it around and I'm gonna do the other side. I'm again doing them independently. Because remember, fabric stretches, stuff moves. And this is how you're going to get your best result. Okay. Just like that. All right. Now, once again, we're going to take the side piece that's going to go right there, and we're going to find the center of it. Just like this. And I'm going to use a pin again because I don't want to mark on my fabric. So I'm just going to use a pin straight through that spot. And we're going to lay the two pieces together. Pull the pin out and put it right back in the same spot. So I'm going to turn it over this side to make sure I got it lined up. No, it looks like something's a little off. Let me try this again. Make sure I got the pin in the right spot. Right there, it should be the center. Okay. All right. Try this again. Okay. And then once again, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to gently line the two pieces up. I am pinning, every ½ inch or so is what I am pinning. If you feel like you need to pin more than that, by all means, more pins are not going to hurt anything. Do as many pins as you feel you need to hold it in place so that it's not going to shift on you. So when we get to this part where we've got the white and you've got these two seams, line these two seams here up. That's all we're worried about, is these two green seams. We're only worried about lining those up. Don't worry about the white in there. Just line those two seams up and put a pin right on that seam. And I'm going to pin this little corner on the end here as well. And then we're going to pin this. Just like this. And then I'm going to do the same to the other side. Line up. This is a little tricky, trying to get two curves that are going different directions to line up. So take your time. Do not pull on them. We don't want to stretch the fabric out. We're just trying to gently make it go the direction we want. And once again, on this green, where those two seams are, take your time. Line those two green seams up really, really well. And we're going to put a pin right there. And I'm going to go ahead and line up this end and put a pin there as well. Okay. I've got the whole thing pinned. It's looking a little funky on this side. Don't worry about it. So the first thing we are going to do is we're going to start on this end. I did notice that I had a little fullness when it comes to the side with the white again. So that's the side that I think I'm going to start sewing on, so we can ease that fullness in. So I'm going to take this end, line that up. Okay, so when you're starting this end, and you know you've got that little piece of white in here, we're not even going to worry about it, but we are going to make sure that we have 1/4 inch going right through it. So this is where lining it up and making sure that it is lined up really well, and watching your 1/4 inch. Be fairly exacting right here, guys. I'm feeling a little fullness there, but I'm not going to worry about that fullness until I get past where that white is. There we go. Pull a pin and adjust the pleat that I feel underneath there. You don't want to adjust any pleats until after you get past that little strip of white that's in between the layers. What I want you to notice too is I'm also not worried about the seam that's under here from this step. Don't worry about it. Just sew through it. It's not going to hurt anything. And once again, I'm just making sure that there's no pleat going underneath my needle. That's all we're worried about, is pleats going underneath the needle. Go slow, take your time. Use your fingers to feel for any pleats. I'm at the midway point now of this. Okay. We're at the middle point, so I've got fabric this way. We want to shift it to the back. We want to shift that fabric to where we've already sewn. That will minimize some pleating. I'm making sure that my white fabric is lining up with the top. Feeling for pleats going underneath the needle. Okay, there's nothing there. Awesome. Okay. So now we're getting back to this side where the other green seams are supposed to meet. So I took the pin out that had those lined up together. I'm going to make sure that those seams are matching, lined up. The white that's in between is still in between. It's lined up straight. Make sure to hold our 1/4 inch. Okay, so now if we did that right, when we open up, we're gonna have the white, and look, it did. Awesome. But see, this happens every once in a while. I've got a little lip where the white has a raw edge right there. Happens every once in a while to me where it didn't quite get caught. So that's an easy fix to pick it out. Let's see why it's not catching. And that's okay, that happens. It happens. We're just going to pick these stitches out. Okay, so yeah, there's a little bit of a raw edge right there. Okay. All I did was, that was a pressing issue where it shifted after I'd pressed it, so I just pulled it outwards. That's all I did, was pull that fabric where that white is, pull it outwards that direction. And that should catch it. So let's see this again. Oh, my bobbin must have been gone. Uh-oh. Yep. Well, that doesn't help nothing. All right, let's sew this back again. Oh, much better. That got it. Yeah, that got it. Okay. So every once in a while, you're going to encounter that right here. Just be sure either you can re-sew because your seam allowance wasn't exact, or like in that case, it was where I had pressed it, and a little bit of starch. I think next time will solve that issue. So let's do the same to this side. And no, I'm not going to edit that out, guys. The reason why I don't edit that out is I want you to realize and want you to see that this is real sewing. I'm not going to edit out my boo-boos because they happen to all of us. And learning how to fix those is always a good thing. And I know there's some that are going to say that's unprofessional, but you know what? I think it's unprofessional not to show that even a professional makes mistakes. So let's get this lined up and pinned. I'm going to make sure this side that it's really, really flat when I pin that. Okay. This one, the seam is trying to go off just a little bit. I'm going to unpin and realign. I really want these green ones to really line up. I'm using a combination of my fingers to feel where the seams are, to get them together. All right, that looks good. And we're going to do the same to this other side. Line up these seams. Okay. Line those seams up. Make sure that's lined up. These points are kind of important because they have to really, really line up for the next step where I sew these blocks together. And so I'm past where that white piece was. And I really made sure that my seam was going to catch it. Now I'm just moving stuff, making sure that there's no pleats. I don't want that seam pushing the opposite direction. Okay. Feeling for pleats again, guys. I feel a pleat right there. Okay, so I'm at that other end where that white starts and stops. Make sure my seams line up. That's what I'm really concerned about, is the seam lining up. Right, like that. That lines up. That lines up. Okay. All right. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, awesome. Okay. Oh, and I pulled my thread out of my machine. Okay guys, so there it is. I got all the sides done. It's gonna go and get pressed. There's no pleats. I don't have any raw fabric hanging out there. There's no raw fabric hanging out there or there or there. So we are good. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great, guys. All right, so here's the finished block that we just did. It looks great. And that's all there is to it. Thank you so much for joining me today while I showed you how we did the more difficult part of making this block. I've only got 30 something more to go of these, but that's okay. Let's hope, fingers crossed, knock on wood, that I get this done in time for our fair, which is July the 25th. So I'm kind of on a time crunch here. When that happens, I will definitely post updates for you guys, most definitely. So it's a time crunch, but I'll get them done. I'm loving the way this is turning out. I can't wait to see the completed quilt and get it on the quilt frame. I will definitely show you guys a video of that when I get it on the frame and start free motion quilting it. And yeah, I'm gonna let you guys go. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you will attempt this quilt. It's not as hard as it looks. It's just you're just gonna have to be careful and go slow, find your centers every time. You know, feel for those pleats going underneath the needle. That's all you have to worry about, is what goes underneath your needle. Everything else, don't worry about it. And it'll turn out fine. I have faith. And yeah, I'm gonna let you guys go. Thank you so much for joining me again. Be sure to do all the things. If you haven't followed me on TikTok yet, please go do that. Instagram, check out my Etsy shop. Everything is, let's see, Instagram is whitecotton_quilts. TikTok is whitecotton quilts. My Etsy shop is whitecotton quilt, no S. and you can get your hands on this pattern. So thanks guys, I'll see you next time.